I am just going to introduce Katie and myself very quickly. Katie Cairns works for CETO, and she's an expert on teaching portfolios. So she agreed very kindly to come here and talk to us about the portfolios. And I will be basically my name is Karolina Serafin, and I will be shadowing her and just adding here or there things that are more pertinent to the actual language teaching portfolio, right? Because in CETO they have tons of variety of people that come to them from all the departments, and they try to help them all. Okay, so this is going to be more targeted towards language teaching. So don't think that I'm just sitting and doing nothing, but I will try to just jump in whenever I can. So we would like to ask you to fill out the little pre-workshop survey. So I'll give you a minute if you haven't done it yet. Somebody is missing this little workshop sheet? No? So thank you for coming and joining us. We hope that that's going to help you. And please remember that in a week, right, there is the second of the follow-up workshop on the technology part. Do you want to say something about it, Shirley?
Yeah, so to follow up, and today you are going to get ideas of like what you want to put in a portfolio, and I think Katie also showed how to do that in a PDF format, and which is very important because many times when you apply a job, you want to include that as part of the material, but it's also give you additional advantage if you also have your own website. So Cell are going to help you how to create a website that includes your portfolio next Wednesday on November 1st. Yes.
Right.
So make sure you bring stuff. After today, think about what you want to do. Bring some stuff. You wouldn't be able to complete it next time, but then we'll also have the third step, which is studios you can come that will actually engage in doing it. But next we are going to learn the skills how to get started.
And of course, when she tells bring stuff, don't print it. Just bring it on a USB, right?
Yeah.
Or email
audio,
or something.
video, or documents.
Yes, I know you know it, but I just felt that I wanted to share it. I'm sorry. All right, Katie, please start.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to see you all. As Carolina mentioned, I do this workshop at a campus level for lots of different disciplines, and then we also specialize often with very particular disciplines. This is my first opportunity to really talk with people in the languages about assembling a portfolio around the languages. So I'm interested to be part of the conversation, both to share some of what I know, but also to hear some distinctions and some specific questions that you have around teaching of languages and how this is a very particular kind of construct. I'm over in the Wells Library right next door. So anything that we talk about here, if you want to meet up with me or a couple of my colleagues who are also trained to work with teaching portfolios, we're happy to meet up with you one-on-one afterwards. Because there are just a few of us, me and Leslie Drain, who work in the CITL on teaching statements. We also do this workshop in collaboration with Writing Tutorial Services. There are several graduate students trained in Writing Tutorial Services on how to provide help on teaching statements and teaching portfolios. So I assure you that you receive expert professional care with any of those individuals, and please recognize that Leslie and I are only two people among many people who help with these, as do several of the professional people who are here as well, happy to help you.
And if I may, some of our graduate students last week, a few weeks ago, went and got an immense amount of help. So you should definitely make your appointments and go and ask for help, because I mean you need to learn how to use your resources on campus. This is really, really important.
So what we're going to do today is talk just briefly, probably about 10-15 minutes, about purpose and audience with teaching portfolios. Then we're going to spend quite a significant amount of time looking at a couple portfolios and basically doing a pretty sort of deep content analysis of those. And then we're going to back out of them and talk about some of the questions that you have about teaching portfolios. I need to leave at 3:15, but that's going to leave you some time to talk amongst yourselves about questions you have that are specific to language that I will be less helpful with because of inexperience. I learned French in high school, but that's all I've got. And I have a PhD in biology, so that doesn't really help in teaching languages, except biology is a kind of, it's a version of a language. So that's how today's going to go. I encourage you to stop us and ask us questions, either as they're generally or specifically related. You'll see us interject with each other. This is for you, not for us to spout things that we know. So this is for you to do your work best. I want to lay just a little bit of groundwork and vocabulary about what we're going to talk about, and I'll try to stand out of the way for everybody to see. So I'm going to be using the term teaching portfolio for our time today, but you may hear among your colleagues and faculty people using the term dossier. Those are synonymous for me, and probably synonymous for most people. And that is also synonymous for me with evidence of teaching effectiveness or evidence of teaching practice that you may see in your academic job announcements or fellowship award kinds of things. So everything here is all meaning the same thing for me. I'm going to probably use the word teaching portfolio, but you may hear other people use other kinds of things. I'm not going to really spend any time today talking about it, but you may also hear people talk about a course portfolio, which is when people are doing a very focused study about their teaching. And some kind of hiccup or learning learning difficulty that students are having in their classes, in your classes, where there's a misconception or a gap in their skills, and you want to do some kind of intervention in the class to see if you can address it. And people will do a study around that, so they'll capture basically evidence that the difficulty actually does occur and has these features to it. Then they'll do some kind of intervention, and they'll basically capture all the things that they've done around that intervention, maybe even a recording of what it looks like in the class, and then capture evidence on the other side about how students learned differently and hopefully in an improved way around that intervention. So a course portfolio is usually the kind of thing that might turn into a presentation or a publication at a teaching and learning journal or conference. So it might be one semester or maybe multiple semesters of the same course, but it's very focused. What we're going to be spending our time talking about is this thing on the other side, a summary of all of your courses, highlights really of courses. And to set a couple things about purpose and audience, you would probably be putting these things together because someone is asking you for it. So there's an extrinsic reason because you're applying for an award, a fellowship, recognition, a job. Someone is asking for it. But I also want you to know that I feel like this process is important for you to learn about what you're succeeding in and what your strengths are as a teacher and what you might need to be working on or thinking about moving forward in your teaching. So this is also a reflective process for you, a chance to really pat yourself on the back when that one sticky comment from a student sticks in your brain, to remember that there's lots of great things about you as a teacher. So this is a chance to think about the long range and the trajectory of your teaching practice.
Also because we create so many different activities for so many different courses, and we very often just put them somewhere and we forget about them, right? As language teachers especially. So something that we find extremely successful, just put it in a folder, put it somewhere where it's just easily accessible. It can be my future dossier. And as much as we expect our students to, sometimes in some courses, the dossier is just a part of assessment, right? That's what Katie was exactly saying. This is our assessment. So, and also the process, just process of constantly improving it and adding things into it, I think is extremely important.
Yeah. I think that's a really great reminder that some of the things that we may look at today will seem very polished and final, because the examples we're going to look at are people who are applying for jobs, so they have many years of teaching experience behind them. But I'd also like for us to think about this as a process of collecting. So how can you be thinking forward about some things at the same time that there may also be some very pressing deadlines in front of you? But that this is also a process of curation, and that leads me to a metaphor I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But that this is habit forming about where we keep stuff and how we keep stuff, so that you know where all of that stuff is. And I think it's also not just a reflection process about what my successes and my challenges are, but also like my intentions behind my teaching, my rationales, why I do things the way I do things, what I like about what I do in the classroom, and how my students enjoy it as well. So I was talking about the metaphor. I think curation is a really nice metaphor for thinking about a teaching portfolio. So we have here two images of the Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C. So it's our National Museum of Natural History. And if you've been there before, you've probably seen the elephant right in the middle rotunda right as you walk in there. So there's a public space that lots and millions of people get to see. Every single day they walk through the museum, they see the elephant, they see lots of collections of things. And yet behind the scenes, actually underneath the building, there's tunnels and tunnels and rooms of other things that the Natural History Museum has in their collections that are available for researchers to come and look at, but the public generally never goes back there. And they are rooms and rooms of shelves and drawers and cabinets of things. And so I think about the portfolio in this kind of way, is that there's a, I'm going to put it in air quotes, public version of your portfolio that is just selected materials. It's not everything that you have, but it's highlights of things that you want to show people. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, right? These are highlights, and if you look at them, they're actually pretty short. I'm sure you have way more than this if you were to print it out of stuff that's on your hard drive, an inbox related to teaching and learning things that you've created for your class. Behind the scenes is a private collection of everything that you have, right? Those folders of OnBox on your hard drive of things that will probably never see the public light of day, but you know where they are. And depending on who is asking, you could pull out something, show something to someone, but it might not actually make it into your portfolio. So another takeaway, I think, for today is if you're just getting started, to basically know where that private collection is and starting to keep track of it and putting things in there. So for example, things like student evaluations. Do you have your fingers, your digital fingers anyway, on everything about your student evaluations? Do you have all your syllabi in one place? So you have everything under your digital control. And then from those, we'll be picking things to put in the public collection. So that's one part of the metaphor that I think really helps in thinking about a portfolio. The museum thing. The other is that in a museum, there's not just the thing. So in a natural history museum, there's not just the elephant and there's not just the whale hanging from the ceiling, but there's little signs throughout the museum. Big signs like when you enter into a hall and they're telling you what this hall is a collection of. And then any particular little thing has a tiny tag next to it telling you about how that item is related to the things that are in the rest of the hall. So there's annotations that go throughout a museum. And we're going to be talking about how a portfolio has those annotations as well, that helps you make sense as a visitor about all the things that are in this collection. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at today, is basically what is this collection and how is it marked or annotated or curated in such a way that you as a visitor can make sense of what's in there, why it's in there, how it's important to what's in there. So first we're going to, the steps are you're going to work on the collection part and then you're going to work on the annotation part. So we're now moving into teaching portfolios. We're not going to talk about natural history anymore. I'm going to talk about your teaching history instead, but thinking about the kinds of things that would go into a teaching portfolio, all the things that everyone has created about you as a teacher. You personally have a lot of those things yourself because you generate them about your teaching. A statement of teaching philosophy as a narrative about your teaching experiences, what matters, where you've been and where you're going as a teacher. I'll probably use the word artifacts a lot to talk about the documents that you create as part of teaching, like a syllabus, exams, assignments, videos of you teaching, participation in things like this. All those documents that you create, I'll be calling them artifacts because they eventually become historical documents. They exist in a past, and you'll be bringing them into the portfolio. Your students also produce documents, so they respond to your work, to your assignments. They write you feedback as part of mid-semester and end-of-semester evaluations. They might write you notes and letters at the end of the semester saying, wow, thank you. Or 3 years later, they might say, I didn't get it then, but I get it now, hold on to those kinds of things. And then also other people, they come and observe you teach, they write you feedback about your teaching, you may get nominated for things, basically holding on to all of those things related to teaching. It's just now occurring to me that you're scrambling to copy, and I have something that'll help. So you don't have to panic. So you're getting a little handout that we give at every workshop about both statements and portfolios. The front side has this triangle on it with all those little pieces on it. And then we're actually going to be kind of going through the back side of it, which is the portfolio side. The front has some stuff about statements on it.
Oops, I'm so sorry. Aw.
So we are about to look at a bunch of portfolios together. And basically there's two things that I'm going to ask you to look at as we're looking at these portfolios. What are the artifacts that they've included? So you have a version of the answer to this on the back side of the handout, the side opposite the triangle. So you don't have to scramble for answers, but kind of look and see, did they include these things, or did they include additional things, or are some things missing from that list? We're just kind of keeping a tally of the kinds of things people include in their portfolios. And then also looking at how people help you navigate it, that portfolio. How do they help you see what's in it? How do they help you find it? And also, how do they help you know why those things are in there? How do they help you make sense about those things? I want to tell you a couple of things about the portfolios that we're going to hand out. I'm going to have you work in groups of probably 3. I brought, I think, 8 portfolios total. I didn't count up who's here, but I think the math will work out to about groups of 3. We'll spend about 5 minutes with the portfolio, which is going to go by, at least the first one, it will go by very fast. So you're not going to get a chance to read the portfolios. That's okay, because we're looking for these answers to the questions. The second part of it's okay is that they continue to exist after we leave here. So they're over at these plus about 4 times more is over in the Wells Library in the CITL that you're welcome to come look at during business hours. You can't take them with you, but you can sit there and look at them. So you can come back. Another thing about these portfolios is that half of them are language and half of them are not language. So what I'm going to try to do is just distribute them. We're going to spend 5 minutes, we're going to pass. I'm going to spend 5 minutes, we're going to pass. So hopefully at least 1 or 2 of the portfolios that you will look at will be a language, but the other ones won't be. And that's important because I want you to, my job is to help you see that there's a lot of commonalities across what disciplines do, and also that you might get a really great idea from a discipline that's not a language discipline. So I want you to be a little unsettled in what you're looking at and be like, I don't understand a thing that's going on here. I don't understand the field at all, but I can see some things about what they're doing in this journalism portfolio, for example. We will talk about about the language-specific ones. Oh, I know what it was, about what we're going to look at. So these are paper portfolios. We printed them out because we want you to be able to touch them, look at them, flip through them. Deal with them in a workshop format. People are submitting PDFs in general, or we're going to be talking about web-based portfolios in a little bit. So what you're dealing with here is an artificial artifact that allows us to do our workshop work together. I will, when we get back together after our activity, we will talk about doing the PDF kinds of work, and so we'll deal with some of those things. That means that there's plastic cover sheets because lots of people handle them, sometimes while they're eating, so we want to keep the pages clean. Sometimes the tabs are getting ripped, right? So there's some funky things going on with these, but it's so that you can see the documents and how they're organized in the portfolios. Does all that preamble and the activity, everybody okay with what we're doing? Okay, so let me get into groups of 3-ish. I'm going to hand out some portfolios, and then I'll start the timer. Ready? Let me try. So you probably got to see, or I hope you got to see, at least one language portfolio. You might have gotten to see 2. As I said, I have to leave at 3:15, but I can leave the bag of portfolios with Leisha maybe, and then we can connect with each other to collect them back later. So that if you want to stay behind a little bit and look at these afterward, you can also come over to Wells Library and look at a whole lot more, especially of language portfolios. And also there's a workshop next week where you get to talk about web-based ones, so don't worry, this conversation isn't really going anywhere in this grand scheme of things. There were a couple of things I wanted to show you about what happened here while you were working on looking at these portfolios. And in fact, so I'm going to talk about actually the second question here first about time and how the readers use these portfolios. I noticed that every single group started at the first page and flipped through to the last page, like you're reading a book quickly, skimming a book. In my experience, that's not how your search committee readers are going to look through your portfolios when you send them, or look at web page, they go to a web page, or you send a PDF of coherent documents together. That there's going to be a question that they're going to be interested in, then they're going to go look for that thing in your portfolio, and they're going to flip to that page and look at it. And then a separate question is going to come up, and they're going to look at it. Maybe they take a very quick skim of something, but in general, when they're doing deep dives, they're looking for something, and then they look closely at it. So there is a skimming time, but it's a pretty fast time, and it might even be faster than what you had with 5 minutes on a portfolio here. So that means in terms of time, you have to make it easy for your reader to find things. So table of contents is important. Easy to find cover sheets with rationales of things is important. We'll, I'm sure, be talking about that conversation in web-based portfolios too, is how you make it easy for people to find stuff and know why that stuff is important to notice. Another thing that I want to bring up, which Carolina and I have talked about on a number of occasions already, is that the things that I'm going to be sharing with you are kind of like the typical, what I see when I work with lots and lots of people across many, many different disciplines. That means that it's like the average, right? But there's a lot of outliers, and there's a long tails statistically about the differences between things. So that's in part why we're doing this with Carolina, so that she can point out, as someone coming from languages, here's how that's differently understood. It's not that we're disagreeing, it's just that there's a lot of ways to do this right.
And a lot of ways to do it wrong.
And there's also a lot of ways to do it wrong. So we're going to try to nudge you toward the right spaces and show you how things are differently constructed in different disciplines and things like that. So what I'm showing you is typical. It doesn't mean it's standard, because there is no standard. It's not like there, I mean, I had a citation about Peter Selden. He might be one guru about teaching portfolios, but he's one white dude in business and economics. Yeah. So whatever that's worth. But there's lots of ways that people are constructing these things, and lots of ways that people are reading them. So there are lots of right answers, and there are lots of wrong answers too. So we'll happily disagree, only because where we sit, those answers are right where we are.
I just look from a point of view of somebody who reads them, and so I will tell you what I look at and what I look for. Period. I mean, I don't have the experience that Katie has, obviously, but I know the audience that you are going to write your portfolio for, and I know what this audience is looking for.
Yeah. So there's some middle line that you'll walk between us, that when we are disagreeing, it's a very
Yeah.
collegial disagreement.
we like each other.
So one of the things that, what I'm gonna do is walk us through ePortfolio, which comes from way outside language. But it's because I wanna show you some functional kinds of things about a portfolio. Meanwhile, I'm gonna ask Carolina to kind of plug in about some things as that might look in languages. And in particular, one of the things that she and I both talked about in particular was about how we represent or include, I don't know if these are the right words exactly, but the color, the vibrancy, the life that is of doing languages that you might not have seen in any of these, or very few of these portfolios. I know a few of them included very colorful syllabi, advertisement, or the posters that you see around in the academic buildings of advertisements for courses. But how do we incorporate that vibrancy of doing and learning languages that you might not have seen? So what we're going to do is kind of polite interjections with each other as we walk through a portfolio that's way outside, and we're going to talk about what that might look like in languages. So pardon me as I sit right in front of these guys to narrate a couple things for you. If this is all I know there are a few faces in here that are familiar. So if it's a refresh, consider it a refresher, not a redundancy. Okay? So what I'm showing you, this is a portfolio from a graduate student who's now a faculty member in education. And he worked in our teaching center office a couple of years ago, several years ago now actually. So what I'm showing you here is his table of contents page. And it's like the joke of academics, right? I know you can't see the details of this, but it's actually not important really that you can see the details, other than that you see some big highlights about some things. What you see on this page is a version repeated on the back side of your, what materials might you include in a teaching portfolio. So some things that you're gonna notice about a portfolio in a PDF paper version is that there's a certain ordering that's very typical of how people do it. So they have a statement of teaching philosophy usually as the first document. I think of that as like the Reader's Digest version, the narrative that explains everything else. That it not necessarily explains, but puts a story around all of these other materials that I'm showing you. That's a whole separate workshop to talk about statements of teaching philosophy. We can do that another time and a place. We also, the next big document, I really encourage graduate students to include these in their portfolios as a document, maybe one, maybe 2 pages of a teaching, sometimes people call it a teaching history or course descriptions. I'll flip there in just a second. Actually, let me just go there right now so that you can see. There's this teaching philosophy, but there you go. So he takes each course, explains a little bit about his role as an associate instructor in it, gives a course overview and some of the responsibilities he had as a teacher for that class, tells you a little bit about the enrollments, especially when he's taught it multiple times. So in your CV, this whole thing might get 3 or 4 lines of your CV, right? I taught these courses during these semesters as an associate instructor. What this does is first explain what associate instructor means to everyone outside of Indiana University, because we're the only place that uses that term. And then even within Indiana, we use the term AI to refer to all sorts of different kinds of roles that you have with a course. Everywhere from grading to a section leader to teaching your own course independently, maybe even of your own design. So this is a chance to explain the responsibilities within that and helps a reader match up, oh, that course is kind of like this course that we have here. I have heard really good feedback from faculty reading these that this is a helpful way for them to understand what your responsibilities were, especially when they have no idea what associate instructor means. It's not artificial intelligence, or at least I hope not. And And also, to, like I said, to kind of map across, oh, that course is kind of like this course that we have here. Did you want to interject?
So
something?
yes, if I may, for languages, I mean the majority of courses that you really teach are the, you know, the
100 to
regular,
250, right?
you know, courses. They might be in different formats like hybrid, online, in-class, regular course, traditional, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, anybody who reads that when you are applying for your curriculum, and anybody who reads your curriculum will know what M100 is, what M150 is, especially if you just write down the full name. So M100, elementary Italian 1, elementary online Italian 1, M150, elementary hybrid Italian 2. Okay, so that's enough, unless you have additional roles, right? Or additional responsibilities, or you create courses on your own. Okay, so then that makes more sense. But if you just teach the regular 4-semester language requirement sequence, in our case, I mean, it's adds you work, honestly, and I will not read it because I know what it is. Okay, so that's a little of difference.
I think that's a really good advice when the experiences that you've had set you apart in terms of responsibility or creativity. That's where that document starts to make a big difference for you. And if you don't have those, to start looking for those experiences. I want to go on to the major, a next major thing that we see is now we get into the actual teaching materials. And one thing I want you to notice is that he has organized it by course. So things about 251 are together, things about P510 are together. That is very typical, again, of a portfolio, not saying standard, but that's typically what people do, in part because that's what faculty do when they submit their dossiers, is that things associated with a course all go together. That also makes sense rhetorically because an assignment that you include, so you want to keep those things together. And I imagine within a website that would make sense as well, like here are things about this M100 course that I have, a couple lesson plans that I have, some activities that I have, that those things would go together. This person, another thing I want to highlight about the course materials is that they are showing you a range, both a breadth and a depth. I do this like, I flap my arms a lot. But the breadth being that they're covering a broad range of the curriculum representative of their teaching experiences. So I know that we're talking about education here, so the numbers might not mean a lot to you. But there's like introductory courses and there's advanced courses. There's face-to-face courses and online courses, there's undergraduate and graduate. I mean, it has to be representative of your teaching experience, but to what degree can you cover the range of your teaching? I'm thinking like in music, here's my musical range from the G below middle C up to whatever my high note is. And then, in addition to the breadth, there's also the depth. So within any class, let me show you a particular activity, a particular lesson, a particular assignment, the materials that we use on any particular day. So breadth and depth are what a portfolio is trying to show, but it's not going to show everything. It's not all of your lesson plans from a course and all of your assignments and exams and all those things from a course, but selected highlights. For the introductory courses, that may be relatively easy to pick because I know that a lot of that is outside of your control and decided by someone else. And so it may be, you know, how I teach this particular, we have to teach this grammar point, but here's how I do it, and here is a, you know, music video that I show during that particular class and what I ask students to listen for and look for in the vocabulary and the grammar of that text. So within this, and this is where I'm going to turn it over to Carolina to input a little bit, we see a syllabus, we have an assignment, we have a second assignment, we have a sample of student work. What may be confusing about Tyler's is that he is in education And an assignment that his students do is write a statement of teaching philosophy. So it's very meta. There's a lot of teaching statement stuff going on here. So he writes one and his students write one, and so that's got a lot of stuff going on in there. In this one, he has, notice he has an abbreviated syllabus, sorry if you can't read it, but the second version is an abbreviated syllabus because once you've seen the first one, you know, all the kind of rules and policy things stay the same in subsequent ones. And when this is in a PDF printed version, that's a lot of paper and pages. We don't need to make people scroll through everything. But in this one, we have a different kind of assignment. We have a forum post. So we have a online discussion thing that's going on. And some of the samples questions that he has there. I think I'd have to scroll down just a little bit briefly, but down at the bottom, he also has course proposals. So courses that he hasn't taught but would like to teach, they are kind of course overviews, not complete syllabi, date by date, assignment by assignment, but more like the big idea of a course. And I think he has a couple of different ideas in there. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to process that and then turn to Carolina. And in a PDF version, what are the things that are missing here that might convey some of the vibrancy of teaching languages?
Well, one comment that I've never seen a setup like that, honestly, by course by course. I've always seen syllabi, lesson plans, activities, assessments I created, etc. That's how I've always seen it, but I like it. I mean, it looks awesome. The other thing, where is the CV?
Not in the portfolio. People on a website, I would definitely imagine a person's CV would be in there, but usually people aren't including them in their PDF versions of portfolios because they are teaching portfolios. And yes, the job announcement will say, send us your CV, a sample writing assignment, names of 3, a cover letter, and then at least with most of the other disciplines that I work with, they are usually, you're dealing with an HR website where you're uploading stuff. So upload your CV here, browse and find it. And then upload your cover letter here, upload, find it. And it's like this multiple document upload thing.
I think it probably depends on, like, we had a search and, well, it depends.
Or you might send it all.
Yeah, it all depends. Probably you just have to read your stuff and know where to put what. That's important, as long as you do that.
It's its own job, applying for a job.
Yeah. But I mean, I can see the setup being really useful, and you could, even if you wanted to do something like that, you could get add videos to, like, choose 2 courses, okay, in your sequence that you really focus on, okay, as examples, and add a video and rationale to your video, and all of these elements, or different elements, but like complete syllabus, an assessment that you created for the course, an interesting activity, a video of you teaching this course, and something that the students made. It could be even one course made like that, and the rest just, you know, the syllabi.
When you put your, let's say, assessments or lesson plans, should you include like an introduction? Let's say, this lesson plan is about blah blah blah. I like it because blah blah blah.
If you want, there's something called rational.
Right.
Okay, that you can use for anything. If you want to really showcase a lesson plan or showcase a video, the rationale is really useful, because what you do there, you explain, you give reasons behind why you choose this activity in this spot and why you made students to do this or that, okay? Or what worked, what didn't work, what you will change for the next time. Don't forget always that showing that you are self-reflecting upon your teaching is extremely important for your portfolio, because portfolio is really supposed to show that you are reflecting upon what you are doing and you are coming up with better solutions. So the lesson might be perfect, but you should still find something to improve for the next time. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I mean, you don't have to give rationale for each lesson plan, but if you want to showcase one course like that, why not do it fully? You know what I'm saying?
So I had an additional explanation. It's not a contrarian explanation or an answer at all. But actually in this PDF version, which I'm happy to share with you afterwards, I'll make sure that Alicia and Carolina have a copy of it. In fact, I think they do have a copy of it already.
Is it the same
From
one?
the
that
same
you
one,
used?
yeah.
Okay.
And so this is actually the cover page. So in fact, the PDF is hyperlinked that you can jump between sections, right? And bookmarking, you open up that bookmark tab and then you can jump down between sections. So this would be jumping to the P251 section. This is a cover page that he has to that particular section. I feel like there's a little bit too much explanation, but there's a couple pieces that I want to highlight for you about this, which, so he tells you, here's what I'm including in this section. Oops, there we go. And what I want you to notice about it. So I'm including a syllabus, here's what I want you to notice. I'm including my reading notes, here's what, and he actually here's what I thought about all of that. Here's some other things that I'm including, what I want you to notice when I'm thinking about it. Maybe a little too long, that's okay, but there's an idea in there that's confirming what Carolina's telling you, which is that, and you can do this on the web super easy, especially if you organize by course. I could imagine that the front page for M150 has, let me tell you a little bit about the course, the materials I'm showing you, things I've thought about and tried out and revised over time, and then we click around and get to see those things. So it's annotating and revealing to you, here's what I'm including and why I'm including those things, so that you as the writer know why you're including something, and then also your reader will know why you're including something and what they should notice. I think on both sides that intention is really important. I know why I'm showing this. I don't think any of the portfolios, I can't remember, did you see PowerPoints in any of yours? Was there anybody who said yes about PowerPoints? Okay. So this one had a PowerPoint set, and that's often a question that comes up. People will be like, should I include PowerPoints? And I say, should you? As an academic does, right? Answer questions with questions. So I go, the question I ask back is, what do you want someone to notice about your PowerPoints? What makes your PowerPoints noteworthy? If the answer to that question is something super interesting and unique, then yes, include them, and yes, then include a note so that the reader knows what meaning they should make out of their PowerPoints. You're not asking them to sit in and learn whatever grammar point that is. You want them to notice something at the 10,000 foot level about your lesson. So, right, you could include PowerPoints, but it needs to be a meaningful inclusion that says something about the uniqueness of you as a teacher, the intentions you put behind your design of activities, something about your creativity, whatever it is, but you need to make sure that you know and that your reader knows that as well. So this, I'm kind of going on and on about this kind of cover page, shorter than Tyler did, I would say, but still making that evident, your intention, and that you're helping to drive the reader in that same direction.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please. Don't ask me.
So
Go for
no,
it.
I had two ideas why Katie was speaking. So the first one is when you are preparing your lesson plan for the portfolio, make it as detailed as possible. Imagine that somebody is not there, right? They are not in your head, okay? And they don't know how you are going to assign this activity, how you are going to assign the couples, why you are doing certain things. Your rationale could be really in the lesson plan. And at the end, you could add, you know what I'm saying? You could add at the end a note. This one well, this one not. For the future, I will exchange this and that. And for the teaching portfolios in languages, the PowerPoints actually are necessary. I mean, I cannot imagine seeing a lesson, well, if you create them, if you use them, of course. I cannot imagine, or whatever materials, Prezi, whatever you're using. I cannot imagine reading a lesson plan without seeing the materials that you're using in class. I have to see them. Otherwise, I will not know what happened in the class. I won't understand it. So any material, any handout you give out, anything that you use in your class must be added to that lesson plan. Mm-hmm.
If you use a lot of media, whether it's visual or audio, is this where you could say, go see my ePortfolio?
Yes, you could add links.
You can add links in a PDF.
Yeah, you could add links.
And they would go.
And they would link it to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like a printed PowerPoint, it's a very flat affect.
Yes.
Versus actually going to someone's PowerPoint if it has media that's embedded in it, right? Acceptable.
Yes, absolutely. Also think about, I mean, the person that is reading your portfolio is going, and language job market is not the greatest one right now, honestly, let's face it. So if we think about how many portfolios in Italian, French, or more commonly taught languages that those poor reviewers will have to read, have mercy upon them, because if they have 60 or 70, right, they will look for very few things and just put away those that they don't want to look anymore. That, you know, I mean, very quickly. And then they will just leave a few to go in depth. But the first impression is going to be the one deciding if they're even going to look in depth at your portfolio. Sorry, that's the...
So knowing that I have about 12 minutes left.
Okay.
But you actually have about 25 minutes together, so no worries. There are two other things that I wanted to talk about, which is student evaluations, and then I want to talk about how to make a table of contents. So in this portfolio, which you will get at some point later, there is an interesting feature in here that I encourage you to do, which is this person has a summary of their teaching evaluations, which is the long view of where their teaching has been and where it's going. So this is the kind of the story they see about themselves and their teaching trajectory. There are a couple of key points I want to show for you about this person's portfolio in this section. So they have a table that takes some of the quantitative pieces, not all of the items that you get marked on, but the ones that are important to them and that are under their control. So the things that, in fact, if you were to read Tyler's teaching statement, you would find out that these items that he has pulled are things that he talks about in his teaching statement directly. So these are things that are important to him about the environment that he creates. They are under his control. They're not determined by somebody else. And he's showing you a couple things. So he grouped together the ones that he improved in over time. And then he put in a separate category the ones that he consistently hits high marks on throughout his time as a teacher. And notice that this is all for a course that he's taught 3 times. Then below that there's a separate table for some other courses. So what he's showing is there's a course that I've had multiple goes at, that I've gotten to do multiple times. I want to tell you a story about that. And then there's some other things I want to tell you a story about. Those are down below. But this leads to a bigger idea about what are stories you want to tell about your teaching as it is seen by your students. So it might be about things that you are consistently awesome at. It might be things that weren't so good but you've worked on and have improved on. It could be about, here are my successes in different kinds of environments with different kinds of students across the board. Here are things that I'm good at. It could be, I do really well in these contexts and need to work on these other contexts. But thinking rhetorically, the presentation of data is you're making a statement, you're making an argument about something. So you want to spend some time actually thinking about, what can I say about my teaching in the long road? That then a person, and I'll show you in just a second, when this summary has on a couple pages down, has the, I'm putting in air quotes, the raw student evaluations, the summaries that you get from BEST, either the online course questionnaire, or if you've been here long enough, a little dot matrix printout from BEST we used to get about 3-4 years ago. So it has the raw stuff that you get institutionally that is an attempt to confirm that this summary picture is accurate, but that this person is showing their reflection about their teaching and showing you that there's something to be said about them as a teacher that they want you to see. So there's a quantitative part. Actually, let me back up. There's a paragraph, short paragraph, that tells you, here's the big things. Here's the big picture about me as a teacher as it is seen from my students. Here's a table that organizes the quantitative pieces that confirm that. And then when we scroll down, there's a qualitative analysis. So taking quotations from student evaluations that come from different classes, different semesters, not quite captured one, but here's from 2009, 2008, with a theme around it and what that theme means to him. Not very many students write quotations that are quotable like these, but the ones that you want to look for are the ones where a student says some version of, when you did X, it helped me do Y. The connection between your method and what they learned to do. Those are the ones you're looking for. Yes, they probably say a lot of like, you're really approachable, I really had fun in class, but it's the ones where I'm so glad we did this activity because, or this thing that we did really helped me figure out that. Those are the ones you want to look for.
Can I play the devil's advocate?
Can I just show them first
Yep,
that
yep,
below,
yep.
just to prove to you that, see here is the student, this may not be familiar to you if you're relatively new, but these are the printouts that you get, and there's all the student comments from that section. So Carolina has a comment and you have a question, battle it out.
No, it's just because our student evaluation are over 23 pages long. That's a lot of pages to our total portfolio. For each course, it's over 20 pages, 18, 20 pages. So I was thinking to do a table that is summarized, but should we include the full evaluation of every course? Because that's a lot of
Yeah,
pages
that's
that
a
when
lot.
they print it out,
If they were.
God willing, they print it out, it's a lot of pages, they get scared. That's my
It's a great,
opinion, but I don't know.
that's a great question. I have an answer, but,
No.
well, I was gonna say, I never recommend that everybody include everything. I recommend that you include the most current version of the classes that you're highlighting in your portfolio. So if I'm showing, I don't know, make up a number, I'm showing one introductory level, one mid-level grammar, one upper level of my own design. You show the complete evaluations from those 3 classes, the most current version of each of them, or maybe the most best version of each of them, but only one version of each of them. And if they want more than that, they'll ask you for it, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, put one M100, M150, M200, whatever you thought. Yeah, but don't put all of them. I always do, and now I'm playing the devil's
Go for it.
advocate. Because as a reader of evaluations, if I see only as chosen, even if there's a rationale, even if there is everything, but I don't see the full thing included, I become suspicious. And just to let you know, because I'm like that, because I'm European and we get suspicious easily.
Americans should get more suspicious.
Maybe.
I'm saying.
Because when I think, okay, he's highlighting this part that talks only about him, but does that mean that he was in conflict with the supervisor? I'm just saying what I think, okay? Does that mean that he was not able to show the enthusiasm for the textbook that he is using, for the materials, for the syllabus that he is using, even if the syllabus and materials were not well done? Okay? So that's where I get suspicious. So I personally want to see everything. Even if you want to do a table to make it easier for him, yes, he has it there. Yes, I know. But I'm saying, just so you know, to not just include the summary.
I'm curious, in terms of including the whole thing, if the formats vary a lot, like for example, one year they didn't type up the comments, they scanned in the handwritten ones, and then other years now they do it online. If I were to want to format it to be correct, it wouldn't look like it was original. So I'm curious about how, because
No, we know that, universities go through different things and phases, and we understand those transitions.
yeah.
I think we all seen, handwritten, typed.
So you can
Yeah.
include a handwritten one in here too?
Absolutely. You can even type them and say those were, and like you can type them.
That's my question.
And
If
then
if they know
these
that
were-
I'm the one typing it, then
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is where I assume that you're honest.
yeah.
Okay. If that tells you something, I don't know.
You include the negative ones too.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about those negatives.
So I have a question about the student evaluation. When they ask, when you have to put in your portfolio, recent evaluations, how long is the recent? And also, could we have student evaluations or example of students' work, from different institutions, like, for example, I work here, but then in summer I work in some other place. Should I include that?
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how long I can date my evaluation, student evaluation in a portfolio? And I'm sorry, you have to leave, I know. So,
Well, I think about, now we get into personal decisions people need to make and specific instances, but about what of those experiences matter for the people who are making decisions about you. So that was a convoluted way of saying, are those things you are likely to be doing in your new work or where you're hoping to be? So are all experiences relevant to the readers? That I might have been a swim coach and that informs me about my teaching, but I'm not going to, put stuff out there. I haven't been a swim coach, but I'm not going to put that in a teaching portfolio because it won't matter for academics to know about my work as a swim coach. I guess I can't put a number on like how far back is not relevant, or not as.
To give you an example, I used to teach back in Europe at university, elementary school, etc. For my first job, as I was searching for jobs in the United States, I would put some of the evaluations from there. Right now, since I've been teaching here for 11 years, I don't do it anymore because I don't need it. I wouldn't even put my evaluations from my previous job. Okay, so I just put the ones from last 5 years. Unless you are asked to do like a professional, for a dossier for promotion, where you have to show everything, that's something different. But for jobs, you just need to choose whatever target your audience. Okay, who are you giving this portfolio to? Who is your audience? What do they want you to teach there at their institution? Okay, why are they hiring you? These are the ones that you are going to pick from what, last 3-4 years? Not farther, 5 if you've been a graduate student for 5 years, right? Or, that's the range of time, more or less. If not, it's too much.
When you apply for jobs, going back to students' evaluation, when you apply for jobs, do they usually specify if they want a summary of if they want the complete? Because
they say students' evaluation.
okay,
They actually say, evidence of teaching excellence, EA student evaluation, ...
Okay.
which means nothing.
I've
So
heard
board
of
teaching dossier,
postings that
at least
won the
that's
last
what
2
honors.
years. Last year there was a posting that
Yeah,
asked for
so-
last 2 year all the evaluations.
Okay.
Or they may ask for 6 courses
Yeah,
or
okay.
something specific.
But it's very general usually.
Yeah.
On Interfolio, since I feel like that's how we have to submit so many of these materials, if you did something where you didn't for length reasons for ours that are 20 pages long in your teaching portfolio, could you then have those as the supplementary documents? Like, hey, if you want to look through all of my N100, so.
I also put last year I put if documents saying these are links to teaching videos, or because you have sometimes in Interfolio you only have other documents and you can add only one file. So I kind of compile the PDF of different things. I don't know if that works, but
Let's move there because she has to do it. And she wants to show you the
That's okay.
table of contents
I'm
and
gonna show
then
you too.
I can still answer.
This is going to be very uninteresting on a video, but so I'm going to write a document about dogs. And it's got some major headings, different kinds of dogs, and then some subheadings because there's a couple different, and there's actually more than 2 different kinds of poodles, but it doesn't matter for right now. So I want to show you, if you've not done this before, a quick trick for making your portfolio look as awesome as Tyler's, if branding is important to you. So you might, in your life, have been frustrated by these things on the right-hand side that make the headings go all wonky, and when you accidentally drive over them. These things are actually important if you are interested in document accessibility for people with with vision impairments, low visibility, that this makes their screen readers work on their computers because it helps them navigate the document. And actually you can see on the left-hand side for you, the navigation pane has opened. So it's just like the little bookmarking in PDFs that allow you to jump between things. And this also allows you to, sorry, now I have to find it, insert, and in fact, you know what I'm going to do real quick just so you can see, is insert page break, insert a page break so that each kind of dog is getting their own section of the document, right? So now when I go back up here, I'm going to insert a table of contents. Doesn't matter which one I pick right now. Oh, everybody goes, oh, look at that. So now it's organized, and I could jump to the Chihuahua section. And in fact, if I added, what can we say about the Chihuahua? We have teacup Chihuahuas, and what else do we have? Mid-sized Chihuahuas too. I don't know. And we're going to give those some headings as well. And then we're going to go back up to the top. Now we've added some things and we update the table. Oh, it updated that too. It'll move. If you added additional stuff so that pages move around, we'd go back and update the table, and it'll update the table for you. So that's how you generate a nice table of contents like Tyler's did, and you can make nice borders and all that kind of stuff pretty easily as well. But that's helping you with your dissertations, yeah? And with that magic trick, I'm out of here.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much. You can play with that some more. You can ask questions of Carolina. She can disagree with me on all the things.
No, I'm not going to. I think actually we've been disagreeing really nicely with each other.
I think we've been pretty cordial about it.
What I want to add is, first of all, to always keep in mind, I already said it, but I can't stress it too much. Keep in mind your audience. Okay? First, I open your CV, and I look if you even qualify for the job. Okay? What courses you taught, more or less. It lasts 20 seconds. Okay? So highlights of your courses. Then I open your teaching statement philosophy. And that's the most important document for me personally. I open it, and I want it to be a one-page document. I know there's written 1 to 2, but I want to see if you can actually say who you are in class in 1 page. I don't want to read 120 pages. I want to read 60 pages. It changes, okay? I want to see how you put together who you are as teachers in 1 page. What matters to you? What makes you different from others, and what is your real passion? Why do you do it? That's what I want to see. Where you want to get with your teaching. If I like it, and it's very, very, very subjective, okay, then I look at other materials. Video. For me, video is one of the most important parts of your teaching. I can see from the video who you are in class, and what is your relationship with students. And then really considering the market right now, and the fact that languages departments are losing more and more students, and we are kind of in a crisis, right? And we are fighting for students among each other. Give me your student, no, give me your student, right? I look, if you can attract students, and if you can make them go forward. What are your abilities into making students love what you do, okay? Yes?
What sort of permissions would you have to get to film your students for your...
You don't need any permission. This is for a job. So you don't need to get any permission from your students. It's an internal.
Not even ask them in the beginning of class. If it's
I mean, I go to my students and I tell them, guys, today, or even a day before, I tell them, guys, tomorrow there will be a video camera in our class. Don't worry, nobody's going to videotape you. They're going to focus on me. I need it for the job market. I mean, we videotape each other in our classes regularly, also for purposes of observation. And it's also important how you do it. If you just place a video camera, okay, and then it forces you to stand in the same place, right? I want to see how you interact with your students. And he's going to move the camera now because I will walk, right? I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see how your students are working, how they are speaking, if they're speaking in the target language, if they're speaking in English. So it's nice to have somebody that actually comes and takes the video. And it's great to have videos at least of 3 different classes and 3 different levels. Why? Because you will need videos for a lecturer, for a tenure track position, and it's always nice to give the viewer a choice of what they might see. Okay? And you will see that if you haven't done it yet, once you do it and you re-watch your video, you will not like it. 99% of cases, I mean, I hate my voice, I hate how I move, I hate my classes, everything went wrong. So you will keep videotaping yourself. But that's the point, Lisa, I know you like yours, but
I have one.
I can tell you the secret of mine. When I apply for jobs, I do not rewatch the video. I just make somebody videotape me, I just scroll quickly to see if everything is in, pump, send it. Because otherwise I will never send a video. Because I will never be happy with what I recorded. So start early, start recording. At every level you teach, record a video. Don't let it go, don't let it wait until the last semester when you are about to apply for jobs.
Carolina, and it's already 5 minutes before 3:30,
Yes.
and we're going to continue this next Monday, Wednesday, November 1st. We're going to send you the specifics, time-wise, and also the venue. So, and Carolina has to leave, but in the next 5 minutes, we would like you to, first of all, I want to see who are here. I'm going to send the slides to the people who actually attended. So, Kathleen is here. No, right? And Nozomi Imai? Okay, Kashika is here. Okay, and also the evaluations. Okay,
I would just
before
ask, do you have any
So-
questions? I mean, do you have any, yes, burning, something that is burning you inside?
Very quickly. About false negative evaluation. What should we include?
Yes, so there are negative evaluations and false negative evaluations, right? I mean, if you decide not to include the whole thing, at least of the comments written by hand, because that's your option, okay? I want to see the number. The comments, you can pick and choose, okay? And what I want to see is you need to post something negative. You cannot just post positives because the reader will know that this is not true. What I advise always to do is to pick the ones that are the false negatives. She speaks constantly in the target language. Okay? There is too much homework. Okay? Too much group work. And those are comments that we get all the time. Too much group work. Too much speaking in the classroom. I don't want to speak so much. Okay? So,
Too much of reading.
yes, too much reading. Try all those comments where there's too much. That means that's a good comment. Okay?
Depends what too much is.
Okay? But there are those negatives. Like, I don't know, she doesn't care about her students. That's a negative. I would not put it necessarily if I have a choice. Okay? Or maybe that's why I don't trust the evaluations that I get. Maybe that's why I want to see them all. But, I mean, this is the only way where you can actually manipulate a little bit the comments. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question really quick. About
evaluation, there are program evaluation and university evaluation. Shall we pick and choose, or also there's midterm evaluation?
Midterm you don't put. Midterm are for you and only for you. This is your thing. The final evaluations have the university part and then the department part. I would put them both. Also because, I mean, those questions are kind of important, although they might not be necessarily pertinent 100% to you. But I would, like the numeric ones, I always put them on. Thank you guys. I'm in 3168 if you need anything ever.